Ancient Faith of the Slavic and Aryan Peoples. Raising of Children of the Great Race. Yngliism, our ancestors' faith, has been integral to daily life of the Slavic Aryans. It was not detached, as some so-called experts claim. For old believers Ynglings, faith and life are inseparable. The ancient faith was not some kind of system detached from tribal life. As many so-called experts and specialists in ancient Slavic Aryan faith try to present and impose on the majority of the population in Russia, because for the Orthodox old believers Ynglings, the faith of our ancestors and life itself are concepts that cannot be separated and do not exist without each other. From the very beginning of the life of the tribes on Midgard, the rituals of Yngliism became part of everyday life, and tribal and communal life has always been an integral part of the original faith. For example, the birth of a child among the old believers was carried out with the observance of certain rituals of the old faith. Caring for the future child in the tribes began long before their arrival into the world. For example, the birth of a child among the Orthodox old believer Ynglings was accomplished by observing certain rites and rituals of the old faith. Care for the future child in the tribes of the great race began long before their arrival into the light of God. The pregnant woman was protected by her husband. She wore his belt by day and his coat by night. He ensured she ate well, believing her cravings were the child's. During the day, the woman would tie a belt around her waist, given to her by her caring and loving husband, and at night she would cover herself with his coat or cloak, so that his masculine strength would protect her and the child in her womb while she slept. During pregnancy, the loving husband always tried to feed his beloved the best delicacies, for it has been believed since ancient times that the exquisite dishes a pregnant woman craves are actually what the child in her womb is asking for from its father. A married woman from any tribe of the great race would give birth to a child in a large tub made of oak or birch in water, because transitioning from the womb's aquatic environment to the waters of the outside world made the child feel calmer and more comfortable. To make it easier for the mother to give birth to the child, the tub was placed in a well-heated bathhouse so that the sacred fire and the bath spirit could always come to help her and the baby. In the bath, the hair of the woman in labor was unbraided and open chests were placed in the corners of the bath. But the most important part of this ancient ritual was that the newborn child was received by its biological father. This rite was, in essence, the final act of the creation of a new man, from his conception in love until his birth. The ancient ritual, when the Creator God, the Father, received a beautiful flower, the child, born from his seed in the fertile soil of the mother. Birth, like death, is a transition across the invisible boundary that separates the worlds of Yavi and Navi. Therefore, until the child turns 1 year old, they could only be seen by their parents, the priests of the old faith, and their grandparents. This is because the child, until reaching 1 year of age, was under the protection of their loving father and mother, the patron gods of the two related families, and the supreme God of the heavenly lineage. When a boy is born in the ancient lineage of Orthodox old believers Ynglings, he is first washed in the waters of the tub where he was born, and then carefully dried with his mother's shirt, so that he grows attentive and caring like her. He is then wrapped in his father's shirt, so that he grows healthy and strong like his father. And if a girl is born, she is dried with her father's shirt after bathing in the tub, so that she gains kindness, health, and endurance, and then wrapped in her mother's shirt, so that she receives all the tenderness, love, care, and attention from her mother, as well as the ability to manage a household and give birth to healthy and strong children in the future. After bathing in the tub where the child was born, he was first placed at his mother's breast so that he could know the first source of the life force. And then, but only in the morning when Yarila rises, the father would ceremoniously carry the infant out of the bathhouse, showing him to all the heavenly gods, the rising sun, and Mother Nature, so that he could know other sources of the life force. And then, but only in the morning when Yarila rises, the father would ceremoniously carry the infant out of the bathhouse, showing him to all the heavenly gods, the rising sun, and Mother Nature, so that he could know other sources of life force. After presenting the infant to the elements of life, he was carried into the home, where the child was introduced to the idols of the ancient ancestral gods, the sacred fire of the hearth, and the house spirit, so that they would protect and watch over the new member of the family. To ensure the full protection of the heavenly and ancestral gods, as well as the peace, the cradle or bassinet for the child was hung in the middle of the room, positioned as if it were between the heavens and Midgard earth. After the newborn was introduced to the new surrounding world, his umbilical cord was tied with a linen thread, woven with the fibers from both the father and mother, and then it was cut. The umbilical cord was cut after showing the child to the sun. If cloudy, cut later until sunrise. This was done so that the infant would have a long and bright life. If the morning was cloudy, the umbilical cord would be cut on the second, third, or even the seventh day, until the child could see the sunrise and the rays of the sun. From the earliest years, all children from the great race and descendants of the heavenly lineage were raised according to the heavenly laws of their ancestral tribe, in sincere love for their ancient kin, in respect for their native original faith, history, unique culture, and folk traditions, in reverence for the elders, and in care for the younger ones, as required by the ancient laws of the tribe and the patriarchal way of life. The ancient laws of the tribe and yngliism always instilled in the younger generation a swastika-like feeling of love, which itself united four types of love: love for the original faith, truth, and the gods and the ancestors; love for the kin, for people, for family, for the lineage, for women, for children, for tradition; love for Mother Nature, for the various forms of life in the surrounding world; love for the land of the ancestors, the homeland, the state, history, and culture. These four types of love help to shape the child of the great race into a harmonious person, a future continuer of the ancient Slavic Aryan lineage, aiding him in his development and improvement throughout life. Filling its four components, body, soul, spirit, and conscience, with the divine light of love. For love of the original faith and the ancestral bright gods develops a person's spirit. Love for the surrounding Mother Nature develops a person's soul. Love for the native land and one's great ancestors develops the body of a person. And love for the heavenly lineage, as well as the earthly one, develops a person's conscience. The harmonious development of the swastika system of a person, body, soul, spirit, and conscience, has always been defined by two great principles, which have been an unchanging part of the ancient laws of the lineage. It is sacred to honor the gods and our ancestors, to always live by conscience and in harmony with nature, and the swastika feeling of love only beneficially contributed to this. Harmonious development of man is possible only when all four components are developed in a person from the clans of the great race: body, soul, spirit, and conscience. If they are not all developed simultaneously, or if only one part is developed, the unity of the whole is disrupted. And this can lead not only to the disruption of the development of a person and the descendants of his family, but also to the degradation of a person, and ultimately to the degeneration and death of an ancient family. From infancy, children are introduced to symbolic images of their lineage and faith through protective signs on cradles and toys with ancient images. Between ages 3 and 7, children engage with their ancestral faith and develop creative skills, driven by a strong sense of community thinking. They learn by imitating elders and interacting with peers from other lineages. Children learn by imitating elders and peers, acquiring creative skills, and understanding the world. This was a special play, emulating older siblings and family. Children learn about the world around them and acquire creative work skills by imitating the older generation, as well as by adopting many things from their peers from other families. For children, this was a special form of play, imitating older siblings and family. Initially, they played together, but around 6, boys and girls had separate games, but shared some from infancy. Children up to 12 were not separated by gender, all called chada. At first, children played together at a very young age. Then at around 6 years old, boys would start organizing their military games, while girls would have their own, but they still maintained shared games that they played since infancy. In Slavic and Aryan lineages, young children up to the age of 12 were not separated by gender and were all referred to the same way, as chada. But at the same time, each boy and girl was consistently raised to respect the opposite sex. In ancient times, children were dressed in shirts made not from new fabric, but necessarily from the clothing of their parents. But at the same time, each boy and girl was consistently raised to respect the opposite sex. In ancient times, children were dressed in shirts made not from new fabric, but necessarily from the clothing of their parents. The boy's shirt was made from his father's shirt, and the girl's shirt was made from her mother's shirt. This is connected to the powerful protective parental force that guards the growing generation and helps them fulfill the lessons given by the priest parents of the old faith. In lessons, children were instilled with the concepts of honor, heartfelt friendship, mutual assistance, loyalty to their word, and duty to their lineage. Girls were constantly told that boys are the future men, warriors who protect the native land and ancestors, loving and gentle husbands, fathers and heads of families, masters who multiply the good of the ancient lineages, gods who organize the lineages of the great race, and guardians of the ancient faith and wisdom of the lineage. And so they should respect and honor boys just like the heavenly gods. In turn, boys were constantly told that girls are the future beautiful women, destined to continue the ancient lineages of the great race, patient creators of comfort on the native land of their ancestors, loving and gentle wives, mothers with many children, caring mothers, hard-working housewives, goddesses who protect the home. And so boys were expected to respect and honor girls as goddesses and heavenly mother goddesses. Starting from the age of 7 to 9, children were taught all the fundamental principles of Ingliism, as well as family and general literacy. To counting and calculations, writing, natural sciences, that is, knowledge that explains the divine, natural, and human origins of life on Midgard land. Notes, family and general literacy. In many families of the great race in ancient times, there were special forms of recording and reading the wisdom that was preserved within a particular family, clan, or caste. The script includes Dorian tragedies and Hari runes. In raising children of the great race, men, the heads of Slavo-Aryan families, mainly take charge. Slavic and Aryan mothers surround their children with affection, care, love, and attention. The upbringing of children of the great race, both spiritually and physically, is mainly handled by men. The heads of Slavo-Aryan families and unions, that is, fathers and grandfathers. Slavic and Aryan mothers should surround their children with affection, care, love, and attention, but not indulge whims, as this could ruin the pure soul and bright spirit of the child. But they should not indulge the whims of their children, as this could ruin the pure soul and bright spirit of the child, to which they will start to indulge. On the third day after birth, each child received their first original name, determined according to the ancient family law of Lyubomir. When children from Slavic and Aryan families turn 12 years old, which is 108 months, 5 years 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 108 months, 5. And they reached a height of 7 spans in the forehead, which is 124 centimeters. A new stage of life began for the children of the great race. The younger generation underwent rituals and naming ceremonies. After completing these rites, they were considered adults, ready to uphold family traditions. Before the ceremony, they were under their parents' care. Afterward, they took responsibility for their actions, words, and deeds. After the ancient rites, young men and women were adults, ready to uphold family traditions. Before the ceremony, they were under their parents' care and responsibility. Afterward, they took responsibility for their actions. Young men received 2 swords. If before undergoing the coming-of-age ritual, they were under the protection and full care of their parents, who bore all the responsibility for them, then after the coming-of-age ritual, the younger generation took full responsibility for all their actions, words, and deeds, just as is expected of an adult. Young men received 2 swords at the age of 12. This meant that within 9 years, they had to master the combat techniques of wielding swords perfectly, and become warriors, the divine protectors of their lineage, their ancient faith, and their homeland. Regardless of their chosen path and caste affiliation, girls received a symbolic spindle and distaff. This meant that within 4 years, they had to master handicrafts, household management, field farming, gardening, culinary arts, and childcare perfectly. During the ancient naming ceremony, the priests of the Old Faith washed away the children's childhood, original names in sacred waters. For young men, this ritual was performed only in flowing water, like rivers or streams. Girls could undergo this ritual in both flowing water and still water, like lakes, backwaters, or in sacred groves, shrines, and other places. The little children of the great race entered the sacred waters, and from the sacred waters emerged nameless, renewed, pure and innocent people, ready to receive adult community names from the priests, beginning a completely new, independent life in accordance with the laws of the ancient heavenly gods and their clans. Instead of their original name, those who underwent the coming-of-age rituals were given two names, an adult, community name, which was what the community members called them, and a secret, ancestral name, which was kept in deep secrecy, known only to two people on earth. The adult, community name, was known to everyone in the families or communities, while the secret ancestral name was known only to two people on earth. That priest of the gods who gave the name, and that representative of the great race who received it for the family name, conveys the whole true essence of a person. When an Orthodox old believer from the Yngling family is asked for his name, he replies with his community name or a nickname linked to his lineage. From age 12, after coming-of-age rituals, they study the ancient laws of Rita, which are celestial laws on lineage purity, mandatory upon forming a family, along with ancestral traditions and professions. Starting from the age of 12, young men and women who had undergone the coming-of-age rituals and naming ceremonies began to thoroughly study the ancient laws of Rita, which are the celestial laws regarding the purity of lineage and blood. Knowledge of and adherence to these laws were mandatory upon reaching a certain age and forming a family union, as well as the ancestral traditions and professions, the secrets of which were kept within their lineage and caste, and the ancestral traditions and professions, the secrets of which were kept within their lineage and caste. And the caste